this up. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I've lived in Michigan since I was 6 years old. I was brought up in St. Joe, Michigan, and dreamed of going away to college to the University of Michigan, and I got that dream, and I've lived in Ann Arbor ever since then, except for the privilege of serving our country right after 9/11 in Central Europe at a very important time in the history of our nation. So I came back to Ann Arbor. I do have my son there. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I'm going to do later tonight. He's 11, born on my wife's 50th birthday with the help of God. But I also had a first administration that ended 33 years ago. And I have 2 older children. Dan mentioned one, but I have 2 older children and 5 grandchildren. And I'm blessed they all live in Ann Arbor. And my oldest grandson is the same age as my son, and they're best friends. So last weekend I was able to take the 2 of them to drive tanks. Now that's a different story that I won't tell you tonight. But tonight I'm taking my son, and this is the first time I've had a little time off for family, and I'm taking him to, tonight we're driving to Muskegon when I leave here, and we're taking the ferry across to Milwaukee the next morning. Then a little business. I'm meeting with the Chief of Staff for Herman Cain, who's going to help us on our defeat this collective bargaining amendment. I've been talking to him for some time. And then I'm going up the coast on 41, then 35, and then 41, and ending up, and I don't know if any of you know this place. I hope some of you stayed there. I haven't before. Big Bay Harbor. That's where the Big Bay Lighthouse is. And that's where the Anatomy of Murder was set, was in that lighthouse, if any of you have read that book. And they turned it into a bread and breakfast, complete with ghosts. And we're going to stay there for a couple of days and do what I did when I was a kid, which is enjoy and understand the beauty of the Upper Peninsula, which is something that every kid should have the opportunity to do. And then I'm going down to one of our other treasures for a couple of days, which is Mackinac Island. Would interfere with winning the presidency, which was what we saw. The budget we inherited, it showed the RNC starting this year with $20 million of debt and no money in the bank. And that's not how you start a presidential year. Because, like it or not, that money is what pays for opening those victory centers and pays for all of that equipment and does a lot of the other things that are the nuts and bolts of running an election on the ground as well as an election in the air. And so that budget was changed immediately. And we cut the costs and started saving the money to operate the RNC so that we would have money to put lead on the target. And the target was President Obama. If I said that very loud in our Secret Service here, I'd be in real trouble. I'm sure. And so, to give you an idea, in 2007, when the Bush people were running the RNC, they ran it for $39.5 million of cost. In 2009, when Reince Priebus is what happens when you get what does he say? He had a Greek father and a German mother, and that's, you get Reince Priebus. In 2009, the predecessor to Reince ran the RNC for $49.5 million. He managed to spend in the pre-election year $10 million more. Well, we ran it last year for $19 million. Report. The RNC is the ones who provide the money and the training for the victory centers across the country in the battleground states. That's been going on for a long, long time. Now in 2009 and 10, when I was state chair, they didn't have any money. So we were forced to do it ourselves. And so all those victory centers, you saw 25 of them, and all that equipment you saw, everything you saw there was paid for by the people of Michigan, not by the RNC. And so this time, we understood that responsibility because there's a lot of states that can't raise the finances that that we were able to raise in Michigan, and they wouldn't have the victory centers that are absolutely critical in the battleground states. And so we set up a first class, brought in first class people to do and prepare for doing that. I mean, we've been training in the RNC for the people who are managing these centers across the country in these battleground states. They started coming in last year in October for training. We've been buying equipment and locating spaces and doing the things that the RNC is supposed to do. Second one is communication, because many of you who watched and whoever that candidate was would get this research. I'm going to give you an idea of what we did. We had 20 people on just research, so even though we cut the cost, we had 20 people that has now grown to 60 researching the president. We have 8,000 pages on the president. There isn't anything, we know which toenails grow faster than the others. We also have every single clip of any video or movie that was, or television that was taken of him since he was in college. And that is all in one library, and it is all indexed by keywords, so that the moment he says, I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do to fix education, we can whip out 42 times he said something else. Now, if you had looked after and many of you may have done it, right after his last State of the Union, State of the Union was a bad state as far as I'm concerned, but the State of the Union, we put a video on that had the most touches of any that we've had. It's been almost 2 million. And what we did is we took his words that he used in his 2012 State of the Union, and we went back to his 2 previous State of the Unions and looked for what he said in those. And we found out, within an hour we had this out, we found out he was saying the same thing about the same things and hadn't done a damn thing about it. Excuse my language, but it's true. He hadn't done anything to fix any of the things that he said he was going to do. And we put it up there and said, here's what he said in 2010. He said it again in 2012. And if you haven't looked at that video, it's still out there on YouTube. Look up rnc.com. You'll find it. And it really is amazing. I mean, and to get a mentor in the White House. When Barack Obama was elected, he got a mentor from the staff of the White House. Do you know who that was? A lot of people don't know this. Karl Rove. And Carl's a good friend. I mean, when I became a U.S. ambassador, he asked the president whether he could give me the call rather than the president, because I got to know him very well. I was Bush's chairman in 99 and 2000. Spent a lot of time on the road and on buses and trains and things with Carl and the president, but got to know Carl well, and and so he called me up. But at any rate, he told me the story. He said the difference between Barack Obama and what you have to know about Barack Obama is he really believes this, that if you're right there, if you're making more money than I'm making, it's because you're lucky. That's the only reason, and therefore you should give me some of your money. He believes that. He doesn't know anything about risk or hard work or the things that make people successful.
Never had a job.
Community organizer. I'm not quite sure what that job is, but that's the only job that he ever had, other than being a politician. So he doesn't know what the real world is. And all the corporate executives that I know, and some of them serve their country trying to help, they all tell me the same thing. Not only does he not get it, he hasn't surrounded himself with people who get it. So this is the most important election we have. So what's the election all about? Well, how do you win this election? Number one is you look at the states that Obama won last time in order to get to that magic 270 electoral votes. Because this is not about the national polls. Anybody who's looking at the national polls right now, just remember that's only a trend, and it has nothing to do with who's going to win the election. So the first state that we will win, and we're not even spending money in it, neither is Obama, is Indiana. That's how much he was a surge. He was a movement last time. You're the movement this time. He was the movement last time. We'll win Indiana. The next state is North Carolina. He won North Carolina by 15,000 votes. He is spending a lot of money there, so we will be spending money there, but we will win North Carolina. They get it. They're a right-to-work state. They believe in the free enterprise system. They know what Obama is. And they won't be quite as passive as they were last time because they know they lost last time. So those two states will be in our columns, not without some work in North Carolina. The next three states are the three critical states: Virginia, Florida, and Ohio. So if you're looking at polls, look at the polls for those three states. If the last set of good polls that I saw had it within the margin of errors on all three states. I mean, I saw one with Virginia down 2 for us. We were up 3 in Florida, down 1 in Ohio. I mean, it's that close, and those polls are not accurate enough to make differentials there. I believe that Virginia will be the toughest state for us to win. Why? Because Obama brought more Democrats in by the tens of thousands into his administration, and they're living in Virginia. They won't live in DC. I mean, that's a little too dangerous for them. So they live in Virginia, in Northern Virginia, and so he added a lot of votes. And unfortunately, a lot of our Republicans who were working there moved out of Virginia and went back home. So Virginia will be tough. It can be won. We have, as you know, Governor McDonald there, who's doing a great job. We won the Senate, we won the House there. By the way, with huge Tea Party help in Virginia. I think you know that. And so we have a good chance to win it, but it's going to be the toughest state of those three to win. Florida. It's very difficult for our... If Obama loses Michigan, his paths to the White House reduce substantially. It's very hard to see a path for him to the White House again. If we lose Virginia or Ohio, it saves us the election, and we will still win. That's how important Michigan is. Now I'm going to tell you my own theories in Michigan, because it's one of the reasons the RNC is sending as much money as they are here, and why you will see some of our friends spending money here, because I talk to them all the time. Oh, they call me because I was the chair here. I understand what's going on. I think there's two things that make a huge difference. Number one is a very fundamental thing. Are there any Democrats in this room? It's a very fundamental thing. We have always had to overcome, to win the governorship or the presidency, a margin that used to be bigger, but in recent years has been about 350,000 votes out of Wayne County. And then if we could keep it even in Oakland County or win by a little bit, we'd have to overcome them in the rest of the state. Well, let's look at Wayne County. Two big groups. The first one's Detroit. Population's now shrunk under 700,000. Last presidential election, it was probably about 800, 850. Less voters. Secondly, no Coleman Young machine. No Kwame Kilpatrick machine. There is no Dave Bing machine. There's no machine to go to the pool halls and the barbershops and put those people on buses and then bus them from precinct to precinct where they vote multiple times. And there's no machine to get them to stop playing pool and drinking beer in the pool hall. And it does make a difference. Now let's go out county. No McNamara machine. If there's a Econo machine, it hasn't got a nickel. Or it's under indictment, one or the other. So I believe, and I've told these people this, that I don't know how many votes less they'll have. Is it 60,000, 50,000, 80,000? There's going to be less of a margin to have to beat out of Wayne County than we've ever had before. So that's one section. By the way, Obama has hired a lot of people to go help him get that vote out. But if you're not from Detroit, the places where those pool bars and barbershops are, you're not going to be going at 6:30 in November. Not without a side of it. So the second part of it is you. When I was chair, I decided that we couldn't afford to lose the election because of the ground game. And so something that's never been done before in the country, I opened 10 victory centers a year before the election. I brought onto our staff 6 deputy chairs who went out there and started meeting with all of you and all of our grassroots and putting those victory centers together. And then in the spring, as opposed to the summer, we opened 15 more victory centers. And what we have in Michigan right now are two things that are different than most any of the other states, including the other battleground states. Number one is our lists of people who are Republicans or potential Republican voters is about the best in the country. And that's because we've worked them on the phones with door knocks for a year, and many of them for 6 or 7 months. Unlike the 2 or 3 months that is usually done by the party. So our lists are better. Now, how do I know that's true? Because the RNC mails those lists. And I remember the guy who does our mail came up to me one day and he said, "What did you do in Michigan?" And I said, "Well, we did this and that." He said, "We just mailed your list, and it had the highest yield of any state list that we've sent out." Which means we were sending to Republicans and not the Democrats or people who didn't lean our way. So that's one thing. The second thing we have is the volunteers. All of you and others got an opportunity. We hired a political consultant, and I invested a bunch of money and time, and I was working on that full time from October till March. And we did a poll with 1,200 people in it. I think the senator knows how big that is. I mean, that's completely accurate. And we found out that this state could pass right to work. And we did 4 focus groups before we did that poll, and we had 2 with unions, and found out in that poll, from what we learned, that 40% plus of the union members were in favor of right to work. And so we put together a plan that was going to ambush the other side. And all of you probably remember from this part of the state some ads that were going on by Bill Bonds. You remember those ads? Right to work is wrong in Michigan. And they put up billboards. That all happened in December of 2007. That was in reaction to the poll and the focus groups that we did. And they spent $1 million just to react to the polls and the focus groups. And so they thought, when we had that primary in 2008, they thought that we were going to have a whole bunch of people out there gathering signatures at the polling places, and they sent out 10,000 union members to the polling places to try to stop us. And we didn't have anybody there. So we had a strategy to put together and bring in the signatures in the last minute when they didn't expect them to come on and put it on the ballot. And I had the opportunity to meet in Washington with Governor Keating, which was the last state that passed right to work. And I was with Dick DeVos, and I was with Governor Engler, and I was with some people from AFP. And what we determined was that to win that election and be sure we were going to win it, we couldn't have a governor that was against it. And so we decided to wait, and wait until we had a governor. Now, we have a legislature and we have a governor. But we also have an amendment that's going to ban this. But not only will it ban this, it will also affect, as Attorney General Schuette has now said, 180 pieces of reform legislation that has been passed going all the way back then. Everything that's been done by the legislature over the last 2 years, all but reversed. We're talking about reversing things like teacher tenure, outsourcing. I mean, any of the things.
You did it. You spoke up. You know, we made, together, we knocked on about more than 7,000 doors. And you know, I took a lot of flack for that. Well, you know, in the military, when you take a lot of flack, you know you're over the target, right?
Yeah.
And the papers were saying, he won't do interviews. Yeah, well, I'm knocking on doors. I don't have time. I can reach more people. And you know, some of that stuff, that flack, can be pretty, well, I will tell you this, I won't have to go to Cedar Point for any excitement, because running for Congress is not like a roller coaster, right? So I'll avoid those for the next, well, at least 2 years. Okay? And let's see, we made a bunch of calls, and we, every time we pick up, I'm going to be perfectly frank, we pick up a paper and they said, the polls say, and I looked at them and I said, man, you must be talking to the wrong people, because I'm going door to door and they're saying, hey, Carrie, come on in for a cold glass of water. You look pretty hot. Great. Hey, what about this? What about that? Oh, yeah, well, that's what we call smoke, magic mirrors, hype, and a lot of spin. So I'm telling you, you don't have to go to Cedar Point if you run for office. Yeah. And I want to thank Ron. He gave me a check. I should have mentioned it. Is he still here? Or did he leave? Okay, well, we have 2 campaigns. We have that September 5th thing, And unfortunately, we're going to spend a lot of money for that. But they told me that, well, you'll get 6 weeks seniority over the freshmen that come in January. And I thought the only really bright part of that story is that if you're in the old and the new 11th, you have a wonderful opportunity. You can vote for the same guy twice for the same election, and it'll be legal. And you'll be a Republican instead of a Democrat. I think that's absolutely terrific, but I don't like the idea of spending the money. So we were endorsed today by Rick Santorum and Pete Hoekstra, the Wayne 11. Thank you. You know, I didn't think he was really as tall as he is. He's tall, Rick Santorum. He's what, like 6'2" or something? Anybody know? Okay. Yeah, let me look at my notes here. Just a few things to say. The big thing we have to face, and I want to tell you, this guy, Dr. Taj, is dangerous. He believes in a single-payer, European-style healthcare program. He's well, he's a big supporter of Obama. And I want to tell you something. I want to take this and just head on. There's a lot of people out there that say, you know, Bentivolio, you have this group, and you have the Tea Party activists, and you have this group. And I said, you guys, when are you going to get it right? I'm a Ronald Reagan Republican. And you know, there's nothing more important than getting people together on a common cause. You know, we do that in the military. We do that in a classroom as a teacher. I have 30 students 5 times a day that come into my classroom, and they're all from different backgrounds. They have different ideas. We call it in the teaching business schema. That's the background. Everything they've done in their life, they bring into the classroom that makes them unique. And as a teacher, you have to get them all on the same sheet of music for a common cause. Maybe it's a research paper. Maybe it's just passing a test, right? And so I looked at this and I said, you know, my number one enemy is a guy, well, opponent, I should say, is a guy by the name of Barack Obama. I really don't. He is destroying my country. And I fought in 2 wars so that we can maintain this republic. A rule of law, where if you get knocked down, you can get back up, dust yourself off, and get back in the game. Where you can build a business, and you can be successful, you can trip and fall, or you can, well, do other things. And this is what makes America great, and that's what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting to eliminate those intrusive regulations. I'm fighting to control that out-of-control spending, where the incumbent spent $25 million for the study of cats in Africa, and a lot of other really ridiculous bills. And they're making our grandchildren pay for it. I don't like that. They're stealing the individual freedom and economic freedom of my grandchildren. And that really scares me. And that's why I said, I guess there's a movie about that where a guy gets up and he said, heck no, or words to that effect, I won't take it anymore. How many of you feel like that? Yeah. I'm not going to take it anymore. And I'm waiting for somebody to stand up. I'm ready, willing, and able. And when you know it, I was in the right place at the right time. That's what it takes. It really does. Now, am I right? Yeah. Now, there are some people in this audience that know me, and when I say I'm a no-tax guy, am I telling you the truth?
Yeah. Yes, but I want you to read this.
Okay, I'll read it. But she knows, because I would not sign a petition a while back that said we're going to tax retirees. I don't think retirees should be taxed at all. I don't care if they're private or public. I don't think you should be forced to be in a union. And I don't think you should be, I don't think that the government should just pick winners and losers because they're somebody's favorite or somebody's friend. And it's kind of nice because I'm in the right place at the right time, and I don't have those ties the other career politicians have. The people I represent are called the West Oakland County Tea Party Patriots. Did I get that right? Or Tea Party Patriots of West Oakland County. The Troy Tea Party. The Rattle With Us Tea Party. The Lakes Tea Party. Wow, what a great endorsement. I thought that, you know, that's like, I gotta put that up on like a plaque or something, because I'm very proud of that. And I'm going to maintain that. And what we're going to do is, let me tell you how this is going to work. It's an easy one. I believe in accountability and transparency. And when I vote on a bill, I'm going to try to get that bill out there and put it online so you can read it. And I'm going to ask you for your comments and opinion. If you find the time you want to read the bill, I'm going to tell you how I voted and why I voted that way. And then ask for your comments. And I'm going to tell you it's pretty hard to do because sometimes they give you a bill an hour before you vote on it. And some of those bills can be several pages long. And I guess I'm going to just have to say present on that one until I read it, if it's okay with you. Yep. Yeah. And the other thing is, I'm going to tell you what it's going to cost for these bills if I can. And I will never, ever vote for an increase in our federal deficit. Never. Understand? Unless there's a war. And I'm going to try to do my best because having been in a couple of them, I know what it's like. And if we can get around that, I'll do everything I can. But let me make one thing perfectly clear. My number one job as a congressman is to protect the country and to protect your rights, not take them away. I can really use your help out there. We've got a big fight. We got September 5th. We got November 6th. We're going to pick up that September 5th along the way. It's going to be a hard fight because they're going to dump a lot of money into this. I need more volunteers. Again, we have another battle coming up. I'm going to need some more money. Ron gave me a nice check today for $5,000 from him and his wife. That's really wonderful. I appreciate that. We got another 10,000 came in today. They're telling me it's going to take $1 million. And I have to raise a lot of money. And that's what it takes. Now look, you put yourself out there, you know, average citizen, and they spend so much, they throw so much at you. It's almost as exciting as being in Iraq again. But you know what? They're not shooting at it. Yeah, right? But that I can take too. Understand, I'm an old soldier. I'm used to the mud. Just get back up, dust yourself off, get back in the game, keep on fighting. Now this is what it takes. It takes sacrifice. And I'm a soldier. I know what it takes to sacrifice. I know what sacrifice is all about. I'm willing to do it again. For just, if you'll, first tour duty till 2016, if you want to keep me on, 2019, and then after a third tour, I'm coming home. Now, it's not because it's term limits. It's just, look, you have 6 years to groom a replacement. That's your job. To get out there and fight for this, you're going to hold on to it, we're going to keep it, we're going to take back our country. God bless every one of you. Thank you very much for your support. Today, God bless you.